that's where we want to start the discussion. Okay? And there's one position that the group of faculty that signed the letter stood on when we met with Carol Folt, Dean of the Faculty and Acting Provost, and we said if everything is on the table, which is what both Jim Kim and Carol Folt have said, if everything is on the table, why is the position of no layoffs not on the table? Right? I'm very grateful to the union for starting that as the negotiating position, and I think that's where we ought to be.
Yeah, and I think that just to clear up a few arguments that I often hear, one of those arguments is that the Dartmouth staff has, over the last couple of years, undergone a huge glut. It's become humongously bloated and unwieldy, and we're wasting our money paying these staff members. And if you actually look at the numbers, even the numbers in the December 1st presentation from President Kim, you'll see that college staff actually decreased since 2002. We have fewer staff members on this campus now than we did in 2002. Now Tuck has expanded, the professional schools have expanded, so our staff has gotten larger. But the undergraduates in this room have to understand that the people providing you essential services, there are not too many of them. It's not as if you could cut hundreds of them and not have that felt in your daily lives. I mean, let's just face that. I think that this isn't even, that's not even something that's deployed by the administration, but you'll hear it by a lot of conservative critics of this college, that this college is bloated and wasteful and you need to get the house in order. The fact of the matter is, in terms of support staff here at the college, we are not bloated or mismanaged. If you look at the numbers, you'll see the staff is actually strong in the undergraduate college. So I just want to read to you guys before we open this up for questions and try to clear up any misconceptions or rumors that are floating around or clarifications. The position of Dartmouth students stand with staff, which I hope all you will consider becoming members of. And this is important because I've heard criticisms of our group that we haven't taken a stand. We haven't stood up for what we believe in, and we haven't made concrete requests of the administration. So now I'll read you our demands. 1, negotiate in good faith with the Service Employees International Union Local 560 and hold any decisions regarding layoffs until negotiations with the union have successfully concluded. Laying off non-union staff while negotiating with SEIU will create a hostile and volatile working environment that will threaten the productivity and harm the student experience. 2, do not subcontract any staff positions at the college. Students have come to know and trust the people who provide them with daily services. Contracting out these responsibilities could compromise that relationship and lead to decreased wages for those who are hired back by a private firm. It also, incidentally, could end up costing the college more if those companies answer to a profit motive and a shareholder base that doesn't include this student body. 3, strengthen the work of the Advisory Committee on Investor Responsibility beyond proxy voting on social issues to have a clearer picture of the entire endowment portfolio and the ability to influence investment priorities in terms of sustainability and social responsibility. This is a group that many of you probably aren't aware of, but I think that it's important to address this now. The Advisory Committee on Investor Responsibility is a really innovative approach that Dartmouth investment strategy managers have taken towards making sure that our endowment is invested in socially responsible companies. But my problem with this entire process is that my impression is that the endowment is, and the way we managed our endowment is what got us into a lot of this trouble. And yet the way we're proposing to address the problem isn't by changing the way we manage our endowment, or at least publicly that's not what's being discussed, but rather by shrinking the size of our college. I think that if we're really going to be talking about sustainable change and really talking about making this place a better place, there needs to be a much larger conversation going on about how this college manages its endowment and how it provides for sustainable investment. It doesn't just mean an investment that keeps on giving you double-digit returns every year. And it doesn't just mean an investment strategy that looks at green companies and looks at creating a more fuel-efficient campus. Sustainability and social justice means we invest in companies that have social values, that live up to those values, and have a commitment to social responsibility. And so far, at least I can't say that I have a clear picture of an investment portfolio. And I'd really like to know if any of the students in this room have a clearer picture than me. I mean, I don't know what companies this college is invested in. And one chief point that I bring up here, not to be extremely long-winded, is that currently the college has no chief investment officer. This would be the person that sets priorities and manages our endowment. It was a gentleman by the name of David Russ, and he has since departed to work on Wall Street. That's interesting because the only endowment, the only benefit, the only payment package that we can find has him being paid $1 million a year in a year where the endowment performed actually quite poorly. So we can assume that in the 4 years he was here, he probably made at least $4 million. Yeah, we also don't know, sorry?
Yeah, Dave.
Yeah, right. It's a lot of money. And we also don't know what kind of golden parachute he was given after he left and went to work on Wall Street. I don't know the number, but I assume it's big. The point is now we have no CIO. The person managing the college's endowment, the person spearheading that effort, is a gentleman by the name of Stephen Mandel, and he's a trustee on the Board of Trustees. He's also the CEO or founder of Lone Pine Capital, and currently manages that hedge fund company. So I just see, and I can't speak expertly about this because I haven't seen the numbers and no one has outside of the administration. I see a potential conflict of interest if a hedge fund manager is currently investing the Dartmouth endowment. And if he's doing it pro bono, I also see a potentially irresponsible decision on the part of our administration giving the responsibility for managing a multi-billion-dollar endowment to a person doing this pro bono work. Anyway, so we want there to be greater oversight over the investment priorities of this college. 4, clearly articulate, this is for the administration, for President Kim, clearly articulate your vision for the Dartmouth community and define the Dartmouth experience. It has not been defined yet. Not that it can be, but at least we want to know what he thinks it is. Clearly explain how pending cuts will affect the Dartmouth experience for students, faculty, and staff. We can't keep pretending that the Dartmouth experience will remain the same even if these massive layoffs take place. So let's be honest about it. How is it going to affect it? Let's have an honest conversation about that. And 5, implement a more transparent model for making budget reduction decisions. Revise how incoming suggestions in all forms are being processed and responded to. Allow students, faculty, and staff a voice in how our priorities as an institution are set, and not simply how the cuts themselves are implemented. That's important. I think right now the model that they're operating off of is we will recruit suggestions from the community when we're deciding how to implement these large-scale cuts. But they're not necessarily interested in recruiting suggestions from the community and determining their priorities, and determining where we go as a community and what we want to be in the future. That decision, strangely, seems already set, even though I don't think the students have really had an opportunity to weigh in on that. And frankly, I don't think that simply posting an anonymous response to a website, which you don't know whether or not it was received, and then seeing it posted on a list of multiple hundreds of suggestions is an adequate way to respond to student, faculty, and staff input. That just does not do it for me, I'm sorry. So that's all I have to say. Do you guys have anything to add, or should we open up for questions?
We should open up.
All right, sorry for laying that all on you. It's a lot of information, but I hope that it helps. Does anyone have any questions?
I want to speak to something that hasn't been brought up others, but it's certainly been alluded to, and that is the Dartmouth experience. And the answer is, not only just speak to the students, because there's a Dartmouth experience there for everyone. I'm Lee Witters, by the way, from the biology department in the medical school. And let's just speak about the student experience, because there isn't a student experience. Every one of you has a different experience. And that's contributed to by the faculty, but also contributed to by the non-union staff, the union staff, and it's contributed to by this community. And in turn, what you do reflects very much in the vitality and energy and the economy of this community. And rather than talk about a Dartmouth experience, I'd like to talk about all the experiences individually that you have when you leave the college. What are the values that you're leaving with as a result of those many different experiences? And certainly one of those values, in my view, and I'm sure many would, certainly the signers of the letter, and I think many other faculty would agree, one of those values is a commitment to everyone on this planet. Be they at whatever socioeconomic, racial, ethnic level they are, and some would define that as social justice. It's a quote that the college very much likes to wrap itself in. And I would certainly commend all of you in this room for the justice that you've shown towards Haiti. And that's been an absolutely tremendous response, which I think has been a great mark for this institution. We've wrapped ourselves in that quote last Friday when we gave away awards to very, very deserving people who've done the same. But you can't have a little bit of social justice. You're either for it or you're against it. And at some level,